So hello and welcome. I'm Jonathan Evans from ABHI, and I'm delighted to introduce this short conversation as part of the launch of our new patient safety report. Today, we'll be exploring some of the key insights and ongoing challenges in advancing a culture of safety across healthcare. I'm delighted to be joined by Craig Quinn from BD, who chairs ABHI's Patient Safety Group, and by Helen Hughes, the Chief Executive of the charity Patient Safety Learning, with whom we've partnered to deliver this work. So Greg, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thanks, Jonathan, and good morning to you, Helen, as well. I'm so pleased we've been able to partner with you and with Patient Safety Learning on this work. This focus on systems thinking, which I know is mirrored and driven by Patient Safety Learning, the organisational learning, and keeping that central role of the patient voice aligns so closely with our ambitions and our objectives, and everything that the ABHI Patient Safety Group is trying to do. For us, this partnership feels like a natural fit. We've got to know each other and brought together our complementary strengths and really shared a commitment to a practical, evidence-based improvement across the health system. So Helen, with that in mind, could you share what patient safety learning is focused on and how that aligns with the themes of this new report and our shared objectives?
Thank you. And thanks for inviting me to contribute to this little video and for the collaboration. We've been working, best part of a year, I think, with ABHI on developing the patient safety report. And it's a really good report. So anyone watching this, do read it. I mean, it is very valuable and it draws on those themes that are very dear to our heart at Patient Safety Learning, as well as the ones that you've outlined there, Greg, for ABHI. It is about putting patient safety at the core as a core purpose of healthcare, not just one priority of many to be sort of balanced around. And it reinforcing that healthcare is complex, is complicated, and having a safety management system approach is absolutely vital. I mean, HSIB in a report last year emphasised this, about bringing all the partners together with that patient safety focus, staff focus, bringing clinicians, academics, researchers, service providers, industry, anyone and everyone together to kind of design a healthcare system that prevents as much as possible avoidable harm and delivers safe and effective care for patients and families.
That's fantastic, and we really applaud and share the values on that partnership working. And bearing that in mind, the report itself, you've really highlighted the importance of system learning and of shared accountability. What do you think the biggest barriers to that achieving that in practice actually are?
I think there are probably three areas. One is that we don't always know what good looks like in patient safety. I mean, we've talked and we've developed at Patient Safety Learning that concept of having a standards-based approach to patient safety, so you know what good looks like. So you could then use that to inform your own self-assessment as an organisation and decide where you need improvement. So that's the broad theme. But I think there's a cultural issue in healthcare, and I've seen it not just in the UK, but internationally, that there's a cultural reluctance to share information. I mean, partly when avoidable harm is discussed, that's a reputational risk for organisations. So there's a challenge of being transparent when there are problems. But also, I think people don't naturally share within organisations or across organisations. You know, there's a concern, as I say, about reputation management, but also that we don't always have the mechanisms for doing it. So if we look at, say, patient safety incident investigations, the very serious incident investigations, they may be shared within a provider, but there's no mechanism for sharing that nationally. If you have a particular issue in Dorset, if you're in a similar set of circumstances in Scunthorpe, you wouldn't know about it. You wouldn't necessarily be able to hear how people investigated, what they did about it, how they made improvements and shared that. We don't have the mechanisms for doing that. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we established our platform, learning platform, the Hub, which everyone's very, very welcome to engage in because it's a free resource to be able to help people find and celebrate the good stuff as well as with the awareness raising. So still some challenges about how we share for learning and when needed for accountability.
That's really interesting, and the working group for patient safety at ABHI really shares your focus and also your interest and your concerns around culture. It's such a block to so much innovation and an uptake of innovation. And we really want to support within your campaigns and utilising those wonderful resources on the hub to play as constructive a role as we can in strengthening patient safety and negating some of those negative culture issues. And I just wondered how you see industry and specifically organisations like the ABHI Patient Safety Working Group playing a really active role in driving forward and making improvements in those areas.
Well, as you know, Greg, from our conversations in helping support you develop the report, but even previously, very strong view that industry as a partner, you're just not not just at the end of a contractual process, that it's part of this wider safety management and understanding actually that there's a lot of expertise about safety management within the industry, partly because of the it's a highly regulated environment that you're in, but you do bring an expertise. I mean, I know that your organisation, BD, puts after action review as a core part of your everyday business. Applying some of those safety science methods in your normal business environment is something that industry does, and that we could learn from that in healthcare. But I think there's also people like yourself who've moved from a healthcare clinician into an industry setting. When you and other colleagues are developing your products and you're engaging with healthcare, you can see the opportunities for improvement. You can also see the deficiencies. So you can be a critical friend and an independent voice for healthcare, and that should be acknowledged. I think there's an important part of that partnership for putting patient safety as a core purpose with user-centered design, which is very important clearly for industry and what you developed. But there's also an element, and we explored this at the group, about industry getting its own house in order. There are parts of industry and medtech industry that haven't done things right, haven't been very transparent, and have resisted change. And I get the real sense of, certainly working with colleagues on that ABHI patient safety group, a real appetite for being a strong contributor and trying to put user-centered design and performance at the heart of everything you do, and making sure that where there is change that's needed, that you're accountable for delivering that. So it was great that you weren't shying away from some of those challenges and the importance of engaging with patients and staff as part of that journey.
Thank you so much for your generous comments. It's been really important to me personally, but absolutely the Patient Safety Working Group per se, to make sure that we are really pushing forward and helping people feel comfortable, but using evidence to drive those initiatives. And we need to know what good looks like, and we're defining that through this wonderful report that you've offered. But what gives you optimism that we're actually moving in the right direction? Because as much as the ABHI group are committed, how do we get everybody to make improvements across the system? And how do we know when we're getting there?
Yeah, I think it's challenging. I mean, if you speak to anyone working in healthcare, they will say patient safety is the heart of what they do, and it drives them professionally and personally. The challenge is getting organisations to wrap around that to deliver that. And those of us who've worked in patient safety for many decades now will see that there hasn't been quite the progress in terms of delivering the outcomes, the scale of avoidable harm, and the impact both for patients, for families, for staff, and the financial implications of that. Progress hasn't been as fast as one would have hoped when Sir Liam Donaldson's organisation with a memory report came out in the year 2000. Much of that report is still very relevant, and who'd have thought 25 years later that we wouldn't have moved on as much. But I think there's much greater understanding now about the scale. There's greater awareness. There certainly is a lot of commitment. The challenge is, designing that for action. And so we've got it's something that Penny Dash had put in her review. There's often an inconsistency that where some organisations are doing well, others less well, and we need to move the platform further up and get that. And so we're looking forward to the new a new quality strategy from NHS England that hopefully has safety at the heart of that to drive that consistency. So the insights that are in the ABHI patient safety report and some of the work we and other colleagues do will help people understand what good looks like and drive that change to deliver what's needed with a strong patient, family, community voice. I think that's really important, that we listen to and learn from the patient safety front line, and that's patients, families, staff, clinicians, safety experts, that we work to make good stuff happen more frequently.
I love that, Helen, and thank you so much for summarising it so passionately. Our advocacy that we received from Henrietta, the Patient Safety Commissioner, from David Lawson in the MedTech Directorate, is critically important to us. However, having that strong linkage to people that receive the service, people that need that safety to live the best life they can live, is so critical. And our partnership with Patient Safety Learning can only strengthen that and actually deliver that. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. I've learned an awful lot from collaborating with ABHI and the Patient Safety Working Group. Look forward to carrying on that partnership.
Yes, thank you both. Greg, thanks for facilitating today's conversation and your leadership of the group, of course. And Helen, thank you so much for your insights and for your collaboration with ABHI and our members. A pleasure to have you with us both today. Thank you.
Thank you.